We'll start with the financial measures of company performance, and then later on we'll connect this to supply chain performance. So we'll make use of two companies, Amazon.com and Nordstrom Incorporation. We'll use their financial data to do some calculations. We can calculate ROE. So we divide net income by average shareholder equity. So these two numbers are given here. So ROE measures return on investment made by firm's shareholders. Basically, it tells us that each dollar invested in Amazon earns about 2.81%, whereas each dollar invested in Nordstrom earns about 32.04%. Another financial measure is return on assets. Return on assets measures for each dollar invested in assets how much returns are obtained. If we take the difference of the two, we can calculate what is called return on financial leverage. So it captures amount of ROE that can be attributed to financial leverage. Another important financial measure is accounts payable turnover. Smaller value of APT for Amazon means that they were able to use the money they owed to suppliers to finance a considerable part of their operations. If we do 52 divided by 2.48, we get 20.97 weeks, which means that Amazon was able to finance its operations for about 20.97 weeks using suppliers' money. Similarly, we can also calculate profit margin, and similarly, asset turnover can be calculated. We can also see that Nordstrom had much better profit margin compared to Amazon, although they had a lower asset turnover. That's why they had a better ROA. We can improve profit margins either by getting better prices for our products or by reducing the expenses. So this much higher profit margin for Nordstrom basically indicates that customers are ready to pay slightly higher prices for their products because the company provides very good responsiveness, and good supply chain management also helps the company to decrease their expenses to serve the customers. For Amazon, most of the cost incurred was mainly shipping cost. So if Amazon can improve their shipping processes and reduce their shipping cost, they will be able to significantly improve their profit margins. Another financial measure is account receivable turnover. So Amazon was able to collect money from sales within about 3.33 weeks. So it took much longer for Nordstrom to collect money from sales. And then we have inventory turnover, which basically means that inventory sat with Amazon for about 7.11 weeks, whereas for Nordstrom, it was there for about 9.52 weeks. And then we have property, plant, and equipment turnover. So we can say that Amazon achieved higher asset turnover because they were able to turn over their inventory faster, and therefore they were able to have higher revenue per dollar that they invested in property, plant, and equipment. So the formulae that were used for calculating these numbers you can find in the next few slides. Another important financial metric is cash to cash cycle. So if we calculate this for Amazon, we will get negative 10.53. Amazon was able to collect money from the sale of product more than 10 weeks in advance compared to the time they have to pay their suppliers. It may be very interesting to see this figure for various industries, so you can see for consumer electronics, it takes on an average about 9.3 weeks, which is much better than many of the other industries. And in fact, for medical device manufacturers, it is as high as 211 plus. Average inventory turns, the number for consumer electronics stands out. So there are two important measures that you may not see in the financial statements, which are markdowns and lost sales. When companies have excess inventory which they are not able to sell, so they try to sell them with a big discount. That is called markdowns. Financial statements only show how much revenue was generated, not how much revenue could have been generated. One example is General Motors, which had a lot of difficulty during previous recession, and things became so bad that they had to declare bankruptcy. One of their main problems was discounts that were to be given to dealers to move excess inventory. So by 2010, when they made a good comeback, they were able to do that by being able to sell cars at much lower discount. And lost sales happen when customer is looking for a product but it is not available. So both of these have big impact on company's net income, and they in fact represent the biggest impact of supply chain on financial performance of a company. If you look at examples of Walmart and Zara, so these two companies are able to have very strong financial performances, mainly because they have supply chains that are able to match supply with demand more effectively, and therefore they are able to reduce markdowns and lost sales. So supply chain performance in terms of responsiveness and efficiency is impacted by following 6 drivers. So we can categorize these into 2 major categories. First 3 logistical and next 3 as cross-functional drivers. So facilities is actual physical location in the supply chain network where we can store the products, assemble them, or fabricate or manufacture them. 2 major type of facilities that you may come across are either manufacturing facilities or storage type of facilities. So when a company is doing well and if they want to improve their responsiveness, they are likely to increase number of facilities they have. For example, Apple, to improve their responsiveness globally, from time to time we hear that they are opening new stores in different countries. On the other hand, if a company or a business is not doing well, they try to reduce their number of facilities to be more efficient, but at the cost of responsiveness. So one example is Best Buy in 2013. So due to stiff competition from Amazon, they had to shut down many retail facilities. Recently, Macy's announced that they will be closing many retail facilities. Another driver of supply chain performance is inventory. So inventory can be any type of raw material that the company uses, or it may be work in progress. For example, in manufacturing, a raw material may undergo various type of processing. So at each machine, there could be an inventory, which is basically work in progress. And once everything is completed, those products have to wait before they can be shipped to warehouses or retail outlets. So various businesses use inventory policies to have impact on their supply chain performance depending on what their objectives and goals are. So for example, IKEA, they store a lot of inventory of finished good items at their stores so that they are able to service customers from their inventory. They are able to do that because those products in the inventory can hold their value for a longer time. But if we have products whose value decreases over time, then it is difficult to have large inventory. And one such example is fashion. Retailers like Macy's or Zara, it will not be a good idea to have a very huge inventory of fashion clothing. So transportation, as you know, is moving inventory from one point to another. Choice of means of transportation obviously can have big impact on efficiency or responsiveness. So information consists of data and analysis related to facilities, inventory, transportation, etc. As a driver, information is really important because it affects every other driver of supply chain performance. Sourcing basically means choosing who is going to perform a particular supply chain activity. So for example, who will perform production, whether it will be done in-house or it will be done by another company. Other sourcing decisions could involve where to keep the storage, how transportation will be handled, and so on. Pricing is basically how much a company will charge for whatever products or services they offer in the supply chain. Pricing can obviously have an impact on demand and supply. So one thing you will realize, these drivers do not act independently, but they interact a lot to have an impact on the supply chain performance. So while designing an effective supply chain, it is very important to take into account interactions among these drivers. In one of the research papers published in 2010, Doheny and others have observed that supply chain performance impacts about 35% of the financial performance for clothing retailers. Although this number may vary from one type of industry to other type of industry, but one thing is sure, that supply chain performance through these 6 drivers have significant impact on financial performance. A company starts by making a competitive strategy, and then they have to make a decision about what their supply chain strategy should be. And the idea is to balance efficiency and responsiveness. So basically, supply chain then uses these 6 drivers that would help to maximize supply chain profits. Although one may look at this framework top down, starting with competitive strategy and then reaching the drivers, one can also look at it bottom up. So one may study these 6 drivers, and that may go as an input for supply chain strategy. Let's look at one example. Walmart's strategy is to be a reliable and low cost retailer. Low cost suggests that they should emphasize on efficiency, but they also need to be very responsive when it comes to products that they offer. So when a customer comes looking for some item in Walmart, Walmart needs to make sure that they are able to find it, because if there is a stock out, a customer may go to some other retailer. Walmart's strategy is to keep low inventory, which will help them to reduce cost. So what they do is, from manufacturer, the items are shipped to a distribution center where this inventory stays for a very short time, and then it quickly goes to Walmart stores. So they do not make use of warehouse. Inbound trucks come from the suppliers to the distribution center, and then there are outbound trucks that go from distribution center to the stores. So because the inventory is stored only at the Walmart stores, not at warehouses, they achieve much lower level of inventory. Clearly, when it comes to inventory, they prefer efficiency over responsiveness. But if you look at transportation as a driver of supply chain performance, they run their own fleet with the aim to have high responsiveness. So although it increases the transportation cost, but that is offset by the lower level of inventory that they are able to manage, and also improved product availability. Similarly, if you look at facilities, Walmart makes use of a centrally located distribution centers within their network of stores to help reduce number of facilities. At the same time, improve efficiency at each distribution center. And they also open a Walmart store only in those locations where the demand is sufficiently high that will be supported by a distribution center. So this has a positive impact on both efficiency and transportation. When it comes to cross-functional drivers like information, so Walmart is one of the leading companies which has invested very heavily in the latest technologies. For example, Walmart is known for using RFID chips to track their inventory levels accurately and quickly. And also they are able to share information with their suppliers quickly. So this information driver is able to help them to be more responsive and also be able to reduce their inventory costs. Walmart carefully chooses efficient sources for each product that they sell through their stores. And usually Walmart will give them big orders so that the suppliers are also able to be efficient. And finally, if you look at pricing, lower prices at Walmart helps them to have strong customer demand, which does not too much fluctuate with price variations. And then the entire supply chain makes sure that the demand is met in an efficient manner. So overall, Walmart is able to create a good balance between efficiency and responsiveness with the help of these 6 drivers of supply chain performance. Now we will look at each of the 6 drivers of supply chain performance A company can improve or increase their responsiveness by increasing number of facilities they have, or they can make these facilities more flexible, or they may increase the capacity. So each of these actions can help to improve responsiveness. But these actions come at a cost. So if a number of facilities are increased, that will also increase inventory cost, but it can also help to reduce the transportation cost, and also it will reduce response time. So there is no one rule that can be applied to all businesses. Different businesses choose the roles of facilities in the way it helps them to be more profitable. So for example, IKEA has few stores, but each of these stores are quite large. On the other hand, if you look at 7-Eleven Japan, each of these facilities may be much smaller compared to IKEA, but they are very large in numbers. So components of facility decisions include role, location, and capacity. So when making a decision regarding what will be the role of the facilities, a company may have to make a decision where the facilities for production will be flexible, dedicated, or a combination of two. So when a facility is flexible, then several types of products can be processed there. But when it is dedicated, then maybe very few variety of products can be processed. When the production facility is flexible, obviously it increases the cost but improves responsiveness. On the other hand, when production facilities are dedicated, they bring down the cost, but then they are less responsive. Businesses may also have to decide whether they will have product focus or functional focus. So product focused facilities carry out all the functions that are needed for a product, whereas functional focus are basically those facilities which carry out a given type of functions. For example, there could be a machining shop which only carries out machining activities. Similarly, there could be a facility that specializes in welding. They may be able to do variety of welding operations. Similarly, when deciding about the role in relation to being a warehouse or a distribution center, decisions may involve whether it will be cross-docking facility or storage facility. So in a cross-docking facility, what happens is the inbound trucks that come from various suppliers, so those trucks are unloaded and the product is broken into smaller lots, and then outbound trucks carry those products to various Walmart stores, or they can be warehouses where products can be stored. One example of decision related to facilities is Toyota and Honda. Both of them use facility decisions, which helps them to be more responsive to their customers. So they open manufacturing facilities in each major market, and this brings them several benefits. They are able to address currency fluctuations, trade barriers, and improve their responsiveness. Especially in a global setting, location decisions could involve various factors that may include supply of skilled workers, cost of hiring workers, cost of facilities, infrastructure, how close they are to the customers, and so on. Similarly, when making decisions related to capacity, businesses need to make sure that there is a good balance, because if there is excess capacity, that will mean that utilization rates of those facilities will not be very high, and many times the facility may be idle. But if the capacity is less than the demand, so that can again create a problem, because if the customers' demands are not fulfilled, they may go to the competitors. So there are various facility related metrics. Capacity measures what is the maximum that can be processed at a given facility. Utilization is how often the facility is being utilized. If utilization is 80%, it is idle 20% of the time. So processing means how often facility is being used for processing, how much time goes into setup, making the process ready, how often it is down, maybe because of breakdown, or it may need maintenance, how often it is idle. Production cost per unit is another metric. So if quality losses are high, it harms the financial performance as well as responsiveness. Theoretical flow is when everything goes well, but in reality there could be some delays, and that is captured by actual average flow or cycle time. When we divide theoretical flow time by actual flow time, we get flow time efficiency. Product variety is another metric. So this is very important for focusing on most important products and customers. 80-20 rule says 20% of the SKUs bring 80% of the profits. Similarly, 20% of the customers may bring 80% of the orders. So it is important to focus on them. Average production batch size is important, and production service level measures fraction of production orders that are completed on time. The reason for existence of inventory is that demand and supply are never equal. So this mismatch is by design, because if you take an example of a retail store where customer wants to buy a t-shirt, it will not be practical that the retail store orders a t-shirt from the manufacturer, because it may take some time before that order arrives, and meanwhile customer may go elsewhere. So what retailers do is they keep an inventory of lot of items so that they can fulfill the demand. Although carrying inventory increases cost, but it also improves availability. So when inventory levels are high, it also poses some risk that there could be items which they may not be able to sell. For example, especially in garment industry, some clothes can go out of fashion, and if a store keeps lot of inventory of a particular design of clothes, then they may have to mark down to clear that inventory. So this will definitely have an impact on the profit margins of a business. So having extra inventory helps in keeping production costs down and also transportation costs down. However, it will increase the inventory carrying cost. On the other hand, if inventory levels are low, that will definitely reduce inventory carrying cost, but it can also result in lost sales. Related to inventory, there is a popular Little's law, which is I equals D times T. Inventory clearly has impact on flow time of material. Let's take an example of Amazon. So suppose Amazon warehouse carries an inventory of 100,000 items, and suppose they are able to sell 1,000 items every day. Using Little's law, we have flow time equals I divided by D, which means that on an average, an item will spend about 100 days in inventory. So if Amazon warehouse is able to reduce this flow time from 100 days to only 50 days, and if throughput remains same, then they will be able to reduce their inventory from 100,000 to 50,000. This can help to bring down the cost significantly. So here is an example of how Amazon manages their inventory for books. They keep fast-selling books at warehouses which are closer to the customers to improve responsiveness. But those books which do not sell fast, they are kept at warehouses that will help to reduce the overall cost. And sometimes they don't even keep it in the inventory. So once there is a customer order, they may print it and then ship to the customer. So cycle inventory is average level of inventory that is used for satisfying demand between supplier shipments. Key questions that a manager need to answer are how much to order each time an order is placed with the supplier, and what should be the lot size of that order. So for example, if Amazon orders 100,000 items from a supplier every month, one extreme could be that they order all 100,000 items once. So there will be only one order and size of the order will be 100,000. Or they may order 50,000 in first 2 weeks and 50,000 in next 2 weeks. So clearly they have to create a balance between the two, because if the number of orders goes down and the size of the order increases, so that will increase the inventory carrying cost, although it is going to decrease the ordering cost. On the other hand, if they order 4 times a week, so ordering cost is going to go up, but the inventory related cost will come down. In a hypothetical situation where there is no uncertainty, then the only inventory will be cycle inventory. But in reality, the demand is very uncertain, and that's where we need safety inventory. So the key decision here is how much safety inventory to keep. So for example, businesses may have to keep high safety levels during holiday seasons because the demand is relatively high, whereas in other times they may not have to keep very high level of safety inventory. So it will help to reduce stock out situation and therefore help reduce lost sales. So seasonal inventory related decisions are to be made because demand very often is seasonal, and especially during holiday seasons, demand may be higher compared to other seasons. So what companies do is when the demand is low, that time the capacity is used to stock up inventory and then make use of it when the demand increases. So one key decision here is a manager may have to decide how much inventory to build up. Level of product availability is proportion of demand that can be fulfilled from the inventory. If this is high, that will lead to high responsiveness because large percentage of demand can be fulfilled from the inventory, but obviously it will increase the inventory carrying cost. When the level of product availability is low, that will definitely reduce inventory holding cost, but then there could be a large percentage of customers who will not be able to be served from the inventory. C2C cycle time captures not only inventory levels but also accounts payable and receivables. Average inventory is average inventory carried by a business. Inventory turns is how many times inventory turns during 1 year. So average replenishment batch size is another metric. Products with more than a specified number of days of inventory. So basically it helps to identify products for which the company is carrying high level of inventory. It can also help to figure out fast moving products and slow moving products. Average safety inventory. So fill rate is proportion of orders or demand that are met on time from the inventory. Fraction of time out of stock, obsolete inventory. Let's take example of Blue Nile. Blue Nile is in diamond business and they are online retailers. Customers can go to their website and place an order for diamond they like. Blue Nile uses faster means of transportation such as FedEx to ship customers in US, Canada and several European countries. Since the value of diamonds is quite high, they offer free shipping for overnight deliveries. Because they achieve high responsiveness with the help of transportation, they centralize their inventories and save a lot of money by not having facilities such as stores. So although their cost for transportation is quite high, the other savings such as not having too many facilities obviously helps them to be very, very profitable. Design of transportation network. So this includes what mode of transportation is used, location, and what transportation routes are used. Businesses may have to make a decision whether a product will be shipped directly from manufacturer to a customer or it will go to warehouses or distribution centers on the way. So especially for a business that competes globally in different countries, they may have to choose whether they should use air, truck, rail or sea. Average inbound transportation cost. So this captures the cost of bringing product into a facility, and managers should monitor this separately for each supplier. A related metric is average incoming shipment size and average inbound transportation cost per shipment. And when you look at outbound, so average outbound transportation cost captures the cost of sending product out of a facility to the customer. And related metrics are the shipment size and also transportation cost per shipment. Out of the total transportation, which mode of transportation contributes how much? This will also help to monitor which modes of transportation are overused or underused. So businesses that are able to share good information across the supply chain are generally very, very successful. One example is Walmart. So they make use of information on shipments from suppliers to help with cross-docking, and this helps them to reduce inventory and transportation cost significantly. When designing processes, manager should understand what type of system they have, whether they have push or pull system. Push system starts with a demand forecast. which is used for making master production schedules. And then it is used for suppliers to make decisions regarding part types, quantities, and delivery dates. But the pull system requires information about actual demand. And this information has to travel very quickly to the entire supply chain so that the production and distribution of the products can reflect the real demand accurately. So supply chain coordination involves sharing information in such a way that the total profitability of the supply chain is maximized. If there is a lack of coordination and information sharing among the players of a supply chain, so that can create a lot of difficulties and reduce supply chain profit significantly. So one example is if there is a design change and the suppliers related to that particular product, they need to know this information quickly. So if they know this information, then they will be able to stop production with old design and move on to produce products with the latest design. If they produce components with the older design, so those components may have to be reworked or they may have to be scrapped if rework is not possible. So supply chain coordination and sharing of information obviously can help avoid these kind of situations. So sales and operations planning is process of creating overall supply plan to meet anticipated demand levels. Generally, marketing and sales people, they communicate their needs to the supply chain, and then the supply chain people will send back information to sales and marketing whether their needs can be met. Final goal is to come up with agreed upon sales, production and inventory plans that can be used for planning supply chain needs. So sales and operations plan is a very critical piece of information because it affects companies, suppliers as well as customers. For sharing and analyzing information, there are several enabling technologies that are used. So electronic data exchange is one such enabling technology. This was developed in 1970s and it helped to make transactions faster and paperless and also more accurate. So internet has become a very important media for communication, and there are so many internet related technologies that help businesses to share information quickly among various supply chain players. ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning. It enables real-time information sharing, and because of that, supply chains are able to improve the quality of their decisions. There are various supply chain management softwares that helps to do some analytics using the information and provide very useful insights that help in making sound decisions. Another technology that is very popular is radio frequency identification. So it has several uses. It can make receiving of a truck that has all kinds of products much quicker and also very cheap. Using RFID, manual counting can be eliminated. So forecast horizon is how far into the future demand forecast is made, and generally forecast horizon should be greater than or at least equal to the lead time of the decision that is driven by the forecast. Frequency of update monitors how frequently a forecast is updated. So sometimes a forecasting method or model may be used, so that model may be accurate for a certain period of time. But once that model starts giving a lot of forecasting errors, that means it's time to really come out with a new model. Seasonal factors, variance from the plan. So this could be production plan or planned inventory levels. So it can help in identifying shortages or surplus. Ratio of demand variability to order variability. So this measures the standard deviation of incoming demand and supply orders placed. So if this ratio is less than 1, so that will indicate there is a presence of what is known as bullwhip effect. In later chapters, we'll see what is this bullwhip effect. Sourcing is a set of business processes which are needed for purchasing goods and services. So managers in a supply chain, they need to make a decision whether each task will be performed by a responsive or efficient source, and whether the source will be internal to the company or it will be somebody from the outside. The idea is to increase supply chain surplus. If you look at example of Apple, Most of their products are manufactured in China at a company called Foxconn. When they decided to do it at this company, they must have taken into account they'll be able to do so in such a way that it increases the supply chain surplus. If you look at Apple again, most of their products are sold with the help of various retailers. But when they launched Apple Watch, they decided that they will sell it only through Apple Store initially because they wanted to provide exclusive customer experience. So whether something should be done in-house or outsource, so that is a very critical decision regarding sourcing. Another critical decision involves supplier selection. Not only choosing a good supplier, but also how many suppliers is part of the decision. So managers also need to identify how performance of these suppliers will be evaluated. Procurement is the process of obtaining goods and services within a supply chain. Days payable outstanding captures number of days between a supplier performing a particular activity versus when they were paid. Also, what was the average purchase price, and range of purchase price captures fluctuations that may occur during a given period of time. And also it is very important to monitor quality of the supply. Supply lead time is difference between the time when an order is placed versus when it is received. If the supply lead time is high, it has negative impact on responsiveness and also may cause businesses to keep higher levels of inventory that will increase the cost. How often suppliers provide on-time deliveries is another critical metric. So supplier reliability captures both variability in suppliers' lead time as well as variability in quantities. Pricing is a process by which a company decides how much they should charge customers for their products or services. So pricing has an impact on customer segments that buy that product or service, as well as it influences customer expectations. Pricing can be used as a tool to match supply with the demand. By providing discounts and reducing the price, surplus can be removed. If you take example of Amazon, if you want to buy something and you choose the item and then proceed to the checkout, the website is likely to offer menu pricing. If you are ready to wait for 5 to 8 business days, then the shipping is going to be free. If you are ready to wait for 4 to 5 business days, then it will be standard shipping. But if you want to get it in 2 days, then obviously the cost is going to be the highest. So this way Amazon is able to provide responsiveness to those customers who value it and customers who want low cost. So for them, Amazon is able to work efficiently to reduce cost. Most of the supply chain activities, they display economies of scale. When things are done in bulk, it is usually less expensive compared to other situations. For example, when a fully loaded truck has to deliver at one location, it will be much cheaper compared to when it has to deliver at, let's say, 10 locations. So basically, a provider of supply chain activities has to make a decision regarding pricing, keeping in mind economies of scale. And one common approach that is used is giving quantity discounts. So one example of everyday low prices is Costco. So they try to keep prices steady over a period of time. So as a result, what they get is a very stable demand. But those businesses that go for high-low pricing may have a situation where the demand peaks when discounts are offered and then it significantly reduces. These two different approaches obviously lead to two different demand profiles that a supply chain has to take into account. Fixed price versus menu pricing is another example of decisions involving pricing. One example of menu pricing is one that is followed by Amazon at the time of shipping. Pricing has a direct impact on revenues, and since it also impacts demand profile, it has impact on production and inventory cost. So some of the metrics that a manager need to track include profit margin, which is basically profit as a percentage of revenue, days sales outstanding, which captures average time between when a sale is made and when cash is collected, average sale price, average order size, range of sale price, So range of periodic order captures what is the minimum and what is the maximum quantity that is sold over a period of time, where a period could be daily, weekly, or maybe monthly. So the idea is to understand correlation between sales and price and see if any opportunity exists to shift sales by changing price over time. So all these six drivers of supply chain performance that we have seen play a very important role in supply chain performance.